Welcome to Hard Beautiful Journey, where we embrace vulnerability as our superpower and let courage light our path. I'm Tiff Carson, here to share heartfelt stories of healing, grief, and resilience. Each week, I'll talk with guests from experts to everyday heroes about their journeys through adversity. Together, we'll uncover the beauty that emerges from life's challenges and how each experience can spark profound growth. Join us on this courageous journey of connection and transformation. Have you ever wondered what your voice really holds? Not just your ability to speak up, but your power to heal, to awaken, and to transform. Today on the podcast, I have Maryn Azoff here, and we are diving deep into the sacred sound of healing. Maryn is a vocal alchemist, a teacher and founder of the vocal transformation method. Her work bridges ancient wisdom with modern science to help people reclaim the voice that they were born with, not the one shaped by pain, silence, or survival. And this one's going to be personal for me because while I've used my voice in storytelling and podcasting and speaking, when it comes to using my voice as a healing modality in breath work and in somatic work, I still feel resistance. So I'm hoping to explore that today with Maryn. But before we begin, I want to invite you into this question. What part of your voice has gone quiet? And what would it mean to let it be heard again? This episode might just be your invitation back to the sound of your own soul. So let's begin. Hello. Maryn is here and I'm so excited. How are you, Maryn?
Oh, I feel great. After that, what you just said, my heart is open. I am so ready to have this conversation with you. Thank you for having me.
I am so completely honored that you chose to be on my podcast and share everything that you know about the voice. For those who have been following along on my journey and my story, you know how important use your voice is to my message and what I try to inspire other people to do. So you are that person as well. And I'm just truly grateful. So wanted to let you know that first.
Thank you.
So I have read your bio, I've watched your videos, but I know there's always more than what's printed or shown. So in your own words, when someone asks you what you do, what do you feel called to say?
Wow. It's really all the way back to that your voice is your ultimate tool for healing your life in every area of it. And that there is an ancient wisdom that was known and has been known on this planet since humanity has been, that the voice is a vibrational tool for healing, for connecting to spirit, and for manifestation, which is the big key to my work. That the human voice is the soul's dynamic life urge for truthful expression, and that our goal with this voice is to be as truthful and authentic as we can so that we can live the life that we've really come here to live. And we use this word manifestation a lot in spiritual worlds, but it's really to create reality. And our voice, the frequency of our voice does this. And this is what they knew all the way back, the beginning, in the oldest civilizations on this planet. So my work is to help us literally express out and heal past wounds and traumas so that we can come to our factory setting again, reclaim our free will and our authentic creativity, and we can begin to build the human life, anyone's individual life, but also, I'd say, the whole human race. We can begin to rebuild what has been taken from us, and we can get track.
I love that. So you healed from a broken neck. And that could
Yes.
have ended your voice, but it didn't. It actually awakened it. Can you walk us through that moment and how sound began to show up for you again?
Yeah, so I was a professional singer and trained to be a singer from a very young age. And I was on that route of performance and wanting some kind of success in the music world. And I was performing in a band at that time and making my music. And I had this accident, actually the day before a recording session, where I was coming home from a rehearsal, and a friend of mine invited me to the roof of his house. And he said the view of the river that we were on was so beautiful, and that before I went home, I should see this view. So I climbed up to this roof. I fell off of the roof before I ever got to see the view.
Oh,
And on my way down, I grabbed this chimney pipe to stop my fall, and it helped with the fall, so I didn't break anything else, but an 85-pound piece of it cracked, hit me on top of my head, and crushed my C1, which is they call that the seat of God. They call that it's the bone that the skull sits on right at the top of the spine. And so I ended up it's quite an amazing story, and what you said before about how these things that happen to us to really know they happen for us and what emerges from these, like, initiations, I call them, instead of these, like, horrible things, they're just all initiations. What comes from it, if we can really see through the lens of opportunity, is incredible. So yeah, the story's quite miraculous. I was rushed to a hospital, and they were rushing me from one emergency room to another to get a surgery because the largest of 4 breaks that were in the bone was 4.8 millimeters, and at 5 millimeters, your heart stops or you're quadriplegic. So, depending on how the break goes. So, I was zero point 0.2 millimeters from my life, and I was being rushed to a better hospital where they were going to perform a surgery of fusing the bone together and fusing it to my skull to secure it. And a doctor who was not the one who did my intake came on duty and came to my bed, my hospital bed, as they were ready to move me to the next hospital, and said, "What do you do for a living?" He didn't know me from anybody. And he said, "What do you do for a living?" And I said, "I'm a professional singer and a teacher of the voice." And he said, "They're gonna perform a surgery right now that is very dangerous. It's, like, right at the vocal cords where they're gonna be doing this operation, so there might be scar tissue on the back end, there might be a slip up at all that might affect your vocal cords, and it really might affect the way your voice sounds." They said, "Even if they do this surgery perfectly, they're fusing the bone to your skull, and it's gonna create a lack of blood and lymph and mobility movement for the rest of your life. So you might have a voice when you come out, but over time, those cords might erode from a lack of neck mobility. If I asked you, could you stay perfectly still for 3 to 6 months and heal this thing on your own, knowing that if you can't, then we're still gonna have to do this surgery and you're gonna have to go through this whole process. Would you choose that?" And I, of course, was like, "Yes, take me to stillness." So he put me in this traction brace, and I was very responsible for my stillness. For the first 4 weeks, they had me on, like, incredible painkillers. I was basically in, like, a lightly induced coma where I was, like, I couldn't get up, I couldn't move because there was so much healing, the pain that everything that had to be done. But then as I came out the other side of that and I had many more months in the bed, I would sit and visualize the healing, and I would create a sound at that part of my neck. So there's a very basic humming that when we do it creates a frequency at the vocal cords and creates a healing. It creates a sound resonance that was beginning to heal it. And by the end of the time in that bed, he was so, like, completely impressed by how far I'd come at the age that it happened. He was like, "Wow, like, you're here to do something for the world." Like, my doctor was quite convinced. And I also had to rediscover how to activate certain lower body muscles to get my voice up through my body so that I could get it out of something that was pretty sealed tight, right? And throughout the whole coming out of that injury, I had to reopen all the muscles, relax my tongue that had been tightened and everything. Everything had to come up and out. So that whole process created what I call the vocal transformation technique, which is really just the way we used our voice when we first came into the world.
Mm.
I help people remember, their bodies remember, how we knew how to use our voice. And as a baby, when we all first came into the world, we took a big breath, which was a diaphragmatic breath into the body, which then activates our entire body intelligence. And then most of us let out a big scream.
Mhm.
And that big scream wakes up the body. That's our voice's way of bringing everything awake. And until recently, if you didn't scream or yell or whoever cry, a doctor would hit a baby to make sure that it can, because it's such an important instinctual intelligence that we have, that this voice is something we're going to need to express to get what we need at that time of our life, and also to move what needs to move. So as energies or things are moving through the body, our voice is a tool to eliminate it from our internal field and to move it out into the greater, right? So we know this at a very young at like it's in our bones, it's in our blood, it's in our DNA, it's in our intelligence. It has nothing to do with us as a person, as like who I think I am. It has to do with what we actually are, right?
Yeah.
And this whole injury created the opening. So I went from after I broke my neck, I had about like maybe half of the range that I had before I went in. But once I went through this whole process, I uncovered way more vocal range than I had ever had before.
After you were fully recovered, you had it?
Yeah, after I learned remembered how to use the muscles in this way and open it all up, and I worked the voice up through the whole body, I gained access to every resonator of my voice. So from the root all the way up to the crown,
Oh,
I gained access.
hold on, I am here. I just don't know what happened to my camera. Oh my goodness. I think that's a sign, Maryn.
Of? What do you think it's a sign?
There we go.
There's a lot of magic in all of this, so I do really believe, it's quite a shamanic thing that we're up to here.
It is very, very. So that is interesting about the humming when you were in the recovery mode. And I'm just reflecting on the last, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years where people have actually pointed it out at work where I'll be walking around the office and I'm just doing a low hum. Mm, like just really, really low. And it's very soothing to me.
Yes.
So I just find it interesting that I
It's
just instinctually went back
there's
to that.
science around
Yeah.
there's science that when we hum, we are stabilizing our vagus nerve. So
Okay.
when you actually create that frequency there, you can move your body from sympathetic nervous system into parasympathetic. And children do it all the time when they're stressed or when they're in a home that might be, like, violent or emotionally abusive or anything. You'll see children kind of coloring and they hum to themselves, and that's another very instinctual way of just keeping the body in parasympathetic. So you're sending a signal down your entire vagus nerve that you can relax.
Oh my goodness. I was doing it just instinctually. So I
Mhm,
love that. I'm going to have to
mhm.
point that out to my coworkers. I don't think it annoys them, but they've just noticed it, right? So very interesting. So you speak about unlearning the voice that's shaped by programming and pain. What did that unlearning look like for you? And how do you now guide people back to their original voice that they came here with?
Yeah, so the I had to unlearn a lot, Tiff. I went through quite an unlearning, and there are many people in this world who knew me back then who would be very surprised with who I am today.
Um,
But, so I suffered a little bit of abuse at home, had a little bit of a thing happen at home that created quite a little kink in my system, and so the voice that I was taught to use was one that only expressed what was pleasing and what would make everybody feel good, but learned to really withhold what was uncomfortable and what was, maybe gonna rock the boat.
Mhm.
And that created a lot of manipulation and a lot of secrecy and a lot of things that, of course, is not only my own, the human race, we're riddled with this, right? Of the outside world telling us what is acceptable and not acceptable, and we're not honoring what the body is naturally telling us it feels or it needs, or honoring the what those instincts want to express. So instead, what we end up with is we end up with the coping mechanism, the mind that has learned how to strategize and navigate this voice in the world to get the thing that we think we want. And then my question is it even what you really want? Because we have all been, I say, colonized at the deepest level. We have all been taken as a very, very beautiful, young, innocent, full of wonder and ready soul in this life to then be trained into what it means to be a good human or a good person or the right way in whatever society, culture, and community we're raised in. And we have some agreeing on moral structure and integrity in those things, but really that could be very different depending on where you were brought up and what your outside influences are. And so the work of vocal transformation is the work to get back to your factory setting so that you can come back to your own free will, which is our birthright. Every human being has the power of choice. And there are people who really debate me on this, that we actually know only we function by some order, like we don't even have a say in this thing. And yes, there is a greater power that is functioning through all of us. But the beauty of being a human is that we do have that choice, and we're all making choices every single day. But whether we're making those choices on how we want to put ourselves out in the world based on, fear, based on survival, based on like needing an outside validation, or whether we're really stepping up to the invitation, which is you are consciousness itself. You are soul meets body. You are the spirit and the akasha and like the universal life force energy coming in and communing with the elemental realm and given the golden ticket, I say, the power of creation. And what we knew all the way back at the beginning was we can create everything through this vibrational sound. Your voice is literally made up of every resonator of your body is represented in, they would say, chakras in the Vedic wisdoms, but there's energy centers throughout your whole body that are literally a group of nerve endings that are clustered in that area of your body. And it just so happens that there's a resonator for sound in that area of the body as well. And when you bring your sound to that area, you begin to stimulate those nerves, and an electromagnetic frequency moves off of that area. Everything in this world is functioning electromagnetically. We are electricity, and we are connecting through water, which is conducting that electricity. We are connecting everything that we're interacting with as our seeming reality. So our voice moves through the whole body. It moves from the root, which is earth, through the second, which is water, through the third, which is fire, through the fourth, which is air, out through the fifth, which is ether. And when we have a voice that moves in its totality, we literally have manifesting power, the ability to create reality that we will then get to experience. Right? So the process that I take people through is a process of, and the process I went through, as you asked, is a process of going back to how we actually became the voice that we are now. Like how did we develop to how we are currently using our voice? And we got trained through our upbringing. So we take people all the way back to their conception, to their soul contract, to what they're at a soul level feeling like they might be here for, their purpose or their connection with the earth herself without any conversation of humanity informing us, right? But just right back to like that original conversation. And we start to move through how we got formed, how we physically, mentally, emotionally got formed and informed by the world around us, and how that comes to become the ego identity or the personality that we function through life with now. And we can go chakra by chakra or energy center by energy center, and we can take our voice, and by moving our voice to that area and chanting a specific sound and creating almost like what you would say a singing bowl or a tuning fork, right? We create that in that area of the body, and that begins to open up. And as it opens up, we begin to unlock old memories, old things that we've chosen to store instead of express. And it starts to come up, and we start to feel it and see it again. And then we start to use our voice and move it out of our system. And this makes our nervous system very resilient. It makes our ability of presence in this moment very stable. And then from there, we get to redirect this energy in the way that we truly want our life to move. Versus a lot of what we do, which is we do it by rote, we do it by repetitive action, we do it, we just do the same thing over and over again, and it becomes who we are. So the practice that I went through and that I take people through is a chanting practice of 9 months, where you just the same amount of time it took you to birth yourself, you can rebirth yourself with the power of your own voice. You can keep what you like. Nobody's going to tell you that you have to completely reset and start again. You don't have to burn down the house, right? But you can see what's there that is not working for your ultimate life vision. And you can see where those parts of you that are insecure want to contract and shrink and begin to build its ability to hold and to express instead. And as you do that, you start to really step into your confidence, which is primordial. It comes with the body. Confidence is something that every human should or does, I think, have as a baby. I have the right to be here. I have the right to my life. The earth gave me a body. My soul has incarnated. Like, I'm here. So whether you tell me that I should be, I'm allowed to be in the way that I look or the way that I believe or the way that I am, the way that you tell me, it means nothing. That's your own perspective. But just the fact that earth put me here and I am is enough reason to have the utmost confidence in life and in myself, what I'm capable of. And so we really step into a conversation of claiming that back, which is our birthright. And then your voice becomes resonant through the chanting practices because you're using your voice in all of these different resonators. You end up with a very balanced, resonant voice, which means the signal, the actual vibrational frequency you're sending out into the world is multifaceted and layered with different resonant sounds, which makes it more manifesting power. It gives it more ability to become reality. A lot of us really just talk from our throats and from our heads, and we cut off the rest of our body. Everything kind of stays up here. And even we hear a lot of that, a lot of like frying, a lot of like holding the voice in a very tight way. But when we breathe and we actually use the voice from underneath, you hear the difference immediately. You probably felt the difference immediately.
Oh,
And that's the
time.
thing. We're we're we are transmitters and receptors of energy. That's what we are. And we're constantly sending out a signal to the world and the world is responding. So when we use the voice, the rooted voice through all these resonators, we literally are grounding our voice and creating a much deeper frequency, which then moves out into the world. And you'll be amazed at how different the world responds to you.
So, for those on audio, you're not seeing my face. I'm just like entranced by all of this. Yeah, I have so many questions. But let's get to the one that I mentioned in the intro about my own voice. And I have done some speaking engagements. I obviously have this podcast and I share quite openly. I've started doing some breath work and somatic training, and I absolutely am in love with everything about it. And in this training, we do a lot of embodiment work, and we do our own work first. And it seems to be that when I'm getting ready to help somebody and work with a client, my throat slams shut. Like, it's literally like I can't even swallow anymore, and I'm I'm doing a lot of work in that area, but I'm very intrigued how this rebirthing, right, this 9-month process could unlock what my real potential is in this space.
Tiff, wow. You have to promise me you're gonna do some of this work. It's so basic. It's so hard to believe that your voice could have the power of unlocking this, but let me explain to you what's going on in that moment.
Please do.
So throat is your area, as I said, of, oh, no, I didn't it's choice. We have free will, as that's what I said, and that is all in throat chakra, free will.
Mhm.
It's your area of choice and follow through. Okay, so everything from inside that wants to move outside, we use our throat as an editor of what's allowed to move out and what has to stay in. And this is where how we control the world, how the world sees us and how the world thinks of us and whatever perspective someone might have of us, we control it by our manipulator and editor that lives here at throat chakra. So, yes, it's our area of free will and choice, but really the fifth chakra here at the vocal cords is our area of control.
Mm, mhm.
The only part of us that wants to control anything is our head. It's our coping mechanisms and it's our memory bank that knows how things have happened in the past and want to project it into the future or prevent it for the future, right? So the head, when it has any place inside of the voice, will lock down and close the throat. You see how close they sit with each other, right? They're
Mhm.
right there. Once we shift the voice to the body, then we're looking at our voice through the lens of three brains, not one. So, not just the words, the concepts, the ideas, and the thoughts I want to put out into the world, but the gut is our instincts, the heart is our emotions, the head is our intellect. So, it's there's your language and your conceptual and your ideas, and even your imagination. So, it's also very, very an important part of our intelligence. But the three brains are how we connect in, and the voice is designed to be used from the root up. And that's how it started when we were babies. It's muscle, it's breath, it's bone, it's resonators. And when we activate it from the root up, we literally change the whole way that we plug in. Because most of us are plugging in head first now. We've been trained to go there, but we need to plug in body first. So when you're looking at somatic healing, which is for me, I'm all about talk therapy. I appreciate talk therapists, but I don't see a way a human race heals right now without releasing
Mhm.
memory that's stored in the body.
Yeah.
Because our head can convince us of something for a time, but when the reactivity is happening so deeply at a body level, our choices are made for us, right? The animal response. So we have to heal now from that somatic place, which this voice work is a somatic healing. What happens when you're about to step forward and heal someone, I'm imagining, you could tell me if I'm wrong, is that you have the greatest heart intention of helping somebody, and your body is trying to lock in to their physical energy field to feel in to what you might feel off of their field as you enter their field and how you can help them release that, right? It's
Yep.
super heart-centered work. But then the head will question whether or not it is feeling it correctly or it knows what it's doing or can I mess this up? Will I hurt them even? Like any of those thoughts that are going to come into the head are going to lock down the throat.
Or am I
And
saying the right words at the right time? I think that is like, I'm pretty, comfortable with my intuition and trusting it. I'm getting way better at that. But it's around the words that I seem to freeze, like, should I say that at that time? Should I wait on saying that phrase? And, like, the starting. But once I get going into it and actually listen to my intuition and set that aside, then it just flows. But it's the
Mhm.
start.
Yeah, yeah, I had a shaman about 15 years ago work with me, and I don't know if you know much about plant medicine ceremonies, but they sing songs throughout the ceremony, and he called me and asked me to have a session with me, and he said, "I've been doing this for many years, and still at the first song, my tongue goes dry and my throat begins to quiver, and I feel this kind of fear to open my mouth. What do you think that is?" You And I said, "That's ego, right? That's the part of you
And period.
it's just the part of you that thinks you're about to do something." So you get very afraid that you might mess it up. And when we enter these healing spaces, we're relinquishing control that we are doing anything. We are actually just stepping into allow intelligence itself to do what intelligence itself is going to do, and that's where the miracle actually occurs. That's where the magic happens. So it's very normal, and it's actually really healthy, to think about whether or not you're going to say the wrong thing is a very healthy thing because you care. You genuinely want to do only good, right?
Mhm.
This is a beautiful thing to be commended. Um, and there is what is that program to begin with? I mean, we could trace that all the way back to very early childhood. I might say the wrong thing. I might hurt somebody. I can mess this up. It
Mhm.
is something that we all carry very deep inside of us. I might make an irrevocable mistake that's punishable by hell. That like, really, whatever the deepest belief might be of what happens that is so punishable that we will be criminalized forever, that will never be forgiven, whatever that is, that's all a lie. I mean, that's all just complete mistruth because forgiveness is here right now, and I would ask this question to what you're saying. Do you think the oracle cares or thinks about whether or not what comes out at that point, the person who's receiving it is ready for or not? It doesn't. The oracle says the truth, and then, yeah, there's many times where I've consulted and been like, "I don't wanna hear that. I don't wanna." Then years later, it's like, "Oh god, they were so right." But I just had to get there,
You
right?
just had to get there, yeah.
So,
Wow.
it's really just opening so the throat chakra is our, channel. It's the portal that allows the spirit into the body and allows what the body responds to come up and out. And while that's open, you now have access to both realms
Mhm.
moving through you, and all of your intelligence is aligned. The way that we control it when we don't trust it completely is we shut it down.
Yeah. Holy okay, so another piece, this is a very vulnerable share, but this is my podcast, and I love vulnerability. Vulnerability is the word. So when I'm in somatic sessions, like in the training sessions and everything, the part around sound, like that sensual sound, it actually I run for the hills. So that is part of my healing process as well. Can you speak to that part of sound and maybe why it's like a, "Whoa, that's too much."
Yeah, thank you for saying that because there's so many people in this exact same place. I talk about this very often. I'm even doing, in Montenegro in September, I'm doing a whole class on erotic sound because it's first of all, our sexuality has been grossly cut away from us, and that energy in essence is the life creating force. Kundalini energy moving through pleasure is gonna create a pleasurable life, but also if you look at the tantric teachings, it is creation itself. It's where healthy babies come from. It's where financial abundance comes from. It's where good relationships come from. It's where crops growing in the field comes from. It's like your whole world is built off of sex.
Mhm, mhm.
We come from it.
Yep.
And it's something that is like, that's a naughty place, we don't go there.
Mhm.
And it becomes very kinked and perverted and all of that as well. So, we all get trained to hold in the sounds of our orgasms. We all get trained to our kids are down the hall, they shouldn't hear us, or we live in apartment complexes and the neighbors can't know that we're doing this. This is something that is so secret, and I have done a lot of studying ancestral lineages, and I think of, like, you know, teepees and living arrangements where the entire tribe lived together, and that was happening amongst each other all the time. Known that this is part of life, like, there's an urge, the animal, the pleasure, like, "Go ahead, do it, it's happening there." We're not like, "Oh my god," it's like, we're just it is it, but we have come a long way from that, have we not?
Uh-huh.
And
Oh, for sure.
coming a long way from that has been to the detriment of our creative instincts, because the second chakra, where that sexuality lives, where the voice is produced from, is where our creative instincts live. It's where our feeling, our bodies, our embodiment, our emotionality, our creative impulses, and our sensory inputs are all moving through that area. So, especially when people come to me and they want to sing, if they don't have access to that sound, to that second, that like yummy, delicious, sensual, pleasurable sound that moves through them,
Yeah.
there's a lot of intelligence that's cut off. And we
Mhm.
end up navigating everything through not a feeling space, but through a thinking space.
Just through here, yeah, through the thinking.
And then take that into the bedroom. I work with tons of people who cannot achieve orgasm because they don't go all the way down there and make sound from there, and instead they're navigating their pleasure through fantasy and through their headspace.
Mm, mhm.
So, to get your voice back down, this is where the voice comes from, right? First, second, third chakras, these muscle groups, your perineum, your obliques, your rectus abdominis, this is where we support sound from. And to get down there and make sound from there, yes, sensual, sexual, and erotic sound, but also the animal grunty, you know, uh, old bone sounds are also down there. You're like, I always talk about cave people, they're like those sounds down in there
Yeah.
that would really relay a straight message of how my body and my energy is right now without word,
Mhm.
just with sound.
Yeah.
So for us to play with that again is hugely important for the human race to get back to feeling free to make those sounds. And not only that, when we make those sounds in an erotic environment, so if we're in sexual intercourse and we're actually using our voice in the way it's designed to be supported to make those sounds, we're actually also opening our cervical area, and we're opening that area where your orgasms are going to be more profound for both you and partner, and
Mhm.
where we tap into a very different frequency of pleasure, of feeling, of connection to cosmic, right? And so that really is our voice. Our voice is, as I said before, your soul's dynamic life urge for truthful expression, which means your energetic body, your higher self essence, your soul that incarnates comes in. Then your body is going to experience life. You're going to feel through your body. And then we get to express what that feeling naturally sounds. And then, as I said, that sound is manifesting. So if you're in the world expressing pleasure, that only opens the pathway to more pleasure.
Exactly. So I do believe that I can get there for myself. How like making my own sounds, but how do I work through hearing the sounds and that block, like where it's like, oh my goodness. Because, like you said, it's been conditioned in us that it's like something that we shouldn't be hearing. And I think that's where the real block is.
Yeah, so it's doing it. Ultimately, the block comes down from our own judgment. Our own judgment definitely came from an outer judgment. There isn't a single person that I've ever spoken to that can't tell me some memory where they were very in the moment, in their pleasure, their joy. Maybe they were singing a song at the top of their lungs. Maybe they were making an animal sound. Maybe they were just laughing really big. Something happened where someone outside said, "Shh," or "You sound terrible," or "That's annoying," or something. And it was young. We were in the middle of a natural expression and it happened. And so what happens there is the muscles that you need to make those sounds immediately there's a contraction. You feel embarrassed. It sends fire through the body. That's your solar plexus, and that's where your insecurity and self doubt can live. So once you have the contraction, you now have a voice in your head that says, watch it. Like, don't let it all the way out. So if we can retrace back to there are many memories, I'm sure, for a lot of people, but if we can trace that back step by step to where they first heard someone outside of themselves say that they weren't allowed to make a sound that was naturally occurring through a soul and a body and like nature was doing its thing,
Yeah.
and then we felt like it was some reflection on us as a person individually, and the ego grabbed that and said, "They don't like that. I shouldn't do that." If we can actually go back there and then remind that child First, one of my favorite facts: your voice can imitate anything within audible range. The
Really?
human, as long as you can hear it,
Yeah.
you can make sound. Any sound, as long as you can hear it, your body can make the sound. Most humans
What? Really?
most have a very massive range. We can have up to an 8-octave range, which is an entire piano keyboard. But most of us will relegate our voice to within 1 octave or 2 when singing, if we go that far. But most of us won't even try to extend that range. Now, why my work is my whole life is because the range of your voice directly implicates the range of your feeling self. The range of how high you're willing to go, how low you're willing to go, how loud you're willing to go, and how soft you're willing to go will all determine how much you can feel while you're here. And the more we extend our vocal range, the more we extend our vitality and our living range. So when we keep our lives like right there at a 5 in the middle, right? Like we're just there and we're just keeping it safe and we're just going to get through the motions and we're going to enjoy, but we're not going to enjoy too much without a level of fear saying, when is that joy going to be taken away from me?
Mhm,
Right.
mhm.
Um, and instead, we're going to really let ourselves go into this body and let the voice move all the way through it. Let the voice express it. Make all the sounds you can, the prettiest ones, the ugliest ones, the gruntiest ones, the squeakiest ones. If you go back to when you were a kid or we were kids, we did that.
Mhm.
Imitated things. We just made stuff up. We made silly sounds. We loved making silly sounds.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then something happened.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's we went to school. I think schooling is a really big thing. If we have freedom at home, which a lot of people do not have freedom as young children at home, but if we had freedom at home to be fun kids, we went to school and had a rude awakening that we had to sit at a desk and keep our mouth shut for 40 minutes at a stretch. And we would want to share, and our teachers would send letters home saying that we talk too much or that we were too much play, like raise your hand when you want to do something and keep it shut. So there's our first rude awakening, like, shh.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for many of us, it's way before that too. But
Mhm.
the that feeling, the way to break through it is to literally just see yourself as animal. You are animal. You are beautiful animal. And you are also God incarnate, the highest level frequency. Like your highest self is Christ consciousness itself, or whatever you want to put to that level of attainment.
Yeah.
And we are all of that. So, what someone else might have as their threshold of potential based on their own program has no imprint on whatever your natural drive to experience and achieve is. But the ego has been trained to really care about what the other people think around us.
Yeah.
So, what happens when the phoenix rises? When like you get rid of all of those ideas. And then you decide, no, I'm going to fly. I'm going to let my voice make this weird like whatever sound wants to come out. Like I'm just going to let myself do it.
Let her
And I'm
rip.
not gonna laugh at myself and I'm not going to criticize myself and I'm not going to do it. And what happens is your ultimate freedom. This is the pathway to liberation of your soul. And when you liberate your soul, there'll be nobody to say anything about it. On the way up, they'll try to stop you because they'll be so afraid of their own limitations. And they'll try to tell you not to get so big and so bright because it's going to challenge the way they live their lives. But you are going to be emancipated. And when you get there, you will be the leader of the world
Mhm. Mhm.
because everyone wants that freedom, but we're too afraid to get there.
Mhm.
So, to answer your question, it's a doing act, but it's an all the way through act. Like one of the big things that I help people or work people with is primal voice release because we have so many layers of locked tissue, of muscle that has trained us to pull in, even like sucking in our stomachs all the time. We have so much pulling in and watching and corseting of ourselves that when we get to those edges, the body itself doesn't know how to push through and let those sounds come out. We get to these edges. The throat starts to close, the the solar plexus very often starts to pulsate and contract. The perineum lifts up, like we clench the bottom of our bodies. Anything to not like, don't let it out, don't let it out. They're gonna reject it. They're gonna laugh at it. It's gonna be weird. That word, like so weird and strange. I don't wanna be that, right? Um, we have to actually unlearn that pulling in and reclaim the expression muscles. And that means it's force. Like the amount of muscle you need to fully express your voice is a lot.
And
And so even when I start this voice work,
exhausting emotionally and physically and spiritually. It would be exhausting, right?
it's in both directions, right? We're kind of exhausting ourselves by holding in as tightly as we are in a very different way. Then when you actually get them out, yes, you're gonna break through, but you're gonna open up the whole channel for a lot of energy to begin to move. So people ask me all the time, like, I have unending energy. It's nonstop. You can ask my partner, Patrick. He's like, "I don't understand." I wake up ready to go. I go to bed with plenty of energy, sleep very well, though, and I wake up like, I'm a go it's all the voice work. And, when you break through, and this has been my experience, helping people really get through past those points, there's a big the sound is what we would call grotesque or just extreme, and it comes out in all of these ways that you just and it opens up all of these resonant pathways in the body, and you don't even know you can't even believe your voice could do that. And then once it's opened, there's just, you know, waterfalls of tears
Yeah.
that follow. And this feeling of everything I've been like all the emotion I've been holding back, that I've been working so hard to hold back, that now I opened up the floodgate and it can just come out. So very often when we do those practices, you end up holding somebody while they just cry and cry and cry and cry and cry and cry all the things, all the tears that they just sucked it up and moved on past because, well, life is hard, life sucks, doesn't but didn't let ourselves actually feel and release through the water that so desperately is always trying to move things, move things along,
Mm.
So, there are walls we're building around that water, dams
Yeah. Big
that we're
dams.
building around the level of feeling that we are so afraid to go into because we're afraid we'll be too much for the world.
So I know you've worked with so many clients and you've probably had countless unforgettable experiences with these clients. Can you give us even just one story of someone who found their true voice and how it changed their life and what shifted in them and what actually shifted in you as well from witnessing that?
There are 2 stories that I really love to share, but I have to decide right now. I'm gonna go with
You
this
can share
gentleman.
both. You can share both.
Alright, I'll start with the gentleman who I was doing this voice work with for a while, and in both of these stories, it's a throat closure that I noticed first, right? And he came to me because he wants to sing. He's a songwriter and a singer, and he at home, like, but he really did wanna pursue something, and he it's something that was, like, driving him, but he just could never get past, like, a certain range, and his voice couldn't come out. And, of course, people come to me all the time to become a better singer, and they do, and even people who don't sing end up singing, but my work is traumatic release and, like, deep therapy work, so it's not designed for the singer, it's designed as a healing modality. And so the the work we end up doing is going through his history like we do and going through memories and stories and going through the body, and we were in this session together, and we were working at his 3rd chakra, and that is where your ego gets developed and where the way that you sense yourself, like who you think you are and whether you trust your instincts or whether you move away from your instinctual intelligence and go with your head, um, really begins to develop. So we were working on that area of him. We were doing the voice work. His voice was holding. He couldn't break it open. And when you move those muscles, it really is that's a dam breaking moment. When we get to the solar plexus, there's always a dam breaking moment there. And so I was really feeling this like very strong hold in the back of his tongue. And the back of your tongue holds your secrets, the things that you want to say that you never said, the things that you said that you wished you haven't said. and the things that you have said specifically to hurt and harm, like something that's come out as violent, they get stored in the back, and the tongue goes all the way down to the top of the vocal cord. So you actually end up with a very tight, very like back of your throat. And so I could feel it there. I could feel it there. I could feel it there. And as I started to work with him and work through the sounding, I started to ask him questions about memories, about like what might have happened to him, or what is it holding? What is it holding? And he had this moment that flashed before him while we were doing the chanting work. So a lot of it has to do with like in the middle of the sounding, these things occur because you've opened up the plane of vibration, and then it allows the mind to clear and to let things rise that are there instead of going through natural thought processes. So he remembered a memory in the basement of his house with his cousins where something happened that um he regretted, and that was, not great between all of them. And they all promised they were going to keep it a secret.
Mhm.
And they did. And he went on for their whole life keeping the secret. And he had so much shame around it. And shame is what gets stored there in the solar plexus. And so I asked him to tell me the story. Like he had the memory come up, and I asked him to tell me the story. And as he was starting to tell me the story, his tongue literally started jumping into his throat. So as he was speaking, he would choke himself. He would say it and just start choking.
Yeah.
And I held his heart, and I looked him in the eyes, and I kept it moving. And I said, whatever it is, there's only love here. Like, just let it out, let it out. And we nurtured and nurtured this opening. And he shared the whole story detail by detail and expressed how, like, what his choice was in it and what his part was in it, and how he's lived all of these years with this feeling. And when it finally all came out, when he finally got the story all the way out to its end, his tongue completely relaxed. Again, I'm holding him while he's crying and crying and crying, and he's sharing with me that one person involved in that has had a very hard life, and he believes that it has to do with this memory, and that there was something that sabotaged her life every step of the way. So he broke open. We cried and cried and cried it out. I loved and loved and loved him up. And then we sat back up, and he started singing, and his voice was completely there.
Oh my goodness.
He had nothing holding his tongue, and he sang with his full, incredible, amazing voice. And he still to this day has it. And he also has reached out and connected with her to help her heal that process. So his ability to just get that out, in AA, they have an expression, you're as sick as your secrets. And a lot of people with addictions are holding on to very deep amounts of shame, which makes their life, they're out of control of their head and their body and like what it wants to do. And so that changed my life because this man, first of all, whenever you do this work with a man, for me, it's absolutely enormous because the breakdown of emotionality comes through that masculine line where men have been told that they have to stay logical and powerful, but they're not allowed to go to these feelings that are creating aspects of their personality that create the major tension between the masculine and the feminine.
Mhm.
So, um, yeah, his whole life began to clear and change, even to this. He was dealing with autoimmune issues that began to clear.
Wow.
So his own body was fighting him every step of the way while he was keeping in something that was too much for him to hold. So that, of course, changes me on this level of we got to get the secrets out, everyone. There's nothing to keep inside. Even what your erotic pleasure sounds like don't keep it a secret. Like why is anything that we've done, and I've taught thousands and thousands of students now, right? So um I have not heard a story that surprises me.
Mhm.
And we've all done very messed up things because we've been very messed up.
Mhm.
And so the quicker we can claim back that anything we've done has been nature itself doing it, that anything we are doing, any way we could possibly sound, is the way a body and breath and voice can sound. Like, it's not about us personally. It's about consciousness doing everything through us and with us. And like, the quicker we can jump into that play, the faster to healing and also the faster to nirvana. Really, like when we talk about heaven on earth, it's like that's how we get back into the garden, everybody. We just put down the cross and we actually get here and we live our lives and we love ourselves and we love each other. And sometimes we do things that hurt. Sometimes we get hurt. But all that is this ground to really grow. And if we're not here to evolve, what are we on earth for? Like,
That's
what
what
is
you said, like the initiations, right? These are all like, that's the purpose of them, is to remind us like why we're here. It's to learn and it's to evolve and it's to grow and it's not to have judgment on ourselves and just keep it all inside. That's not the point.
do we have time for my second story?
We have so much time for your second story.
Okay, because it's my favorite one, and I share it with her, and she's told me since it happened to share it, and it's just like, if you want to understand why the voice, if you want to understand, like, what dance we're all actually in, and not just in this three-dimensional reality of, like, go to work, climb the ladder, get the degree, get the job, have the wife and kids, like, whatever it is, if you wanna know what we're actually doing here, this story is the one that tells it. So a woman that I was working with, um we were working on her second chakra, right? There's your womb space and there's your center of relationships, emotions, creativity. I've already talked about that. And we were chanting at that level. And again, I heard her come through. The sound is vam for that. And she was like, "Ah," like she was tight, tight, tight. And I said to her, what happened to you in this area of your life? Like what happened in this part? And it's developing normally originally between 6 months and 3 years and then again at 15 and 16, this part of our body. So I'm asking her, like, was there abuse when you were a baby that you know about? Was there any kind of sexual abuse? Was there anything that went on? And she was like, nope, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. And we keep chanting, we keep going. The throat is tight. She wants to stop. I'm like, keep going, keep going. So we finally keep chanting and we get to this place where her throat opens. So she goes from like va to ba, and her throat drops and there's sound through the whole body and her eyes open and she's like, what is that? And I was like, that's your voice. That's your voice. Stay. And so she just kept chanting and chanting and chanting it and got the voice down there and got it moving and tears are rolling down her face. She's kind of like in this mode. And we break through it and the session ends and we say goodbye and she goes home and she calls me, I don't know, later that night. She calls me and she says, Maryn, can sit down. I was like, okay.
Okay.
And she says, so I came home from our session and I got a phone call from a daughter that I had when I was 16 years old that I gave up for adoption. And when you asked me what happened, I didn't even have that memory to retain. Like, I got pregnant and my parents, they kept me in the house. They made me have the baby because we were very religious, but they wouldn't let me go out so that the neighbors wouldn't see. And they kept me in the house and I delivered my baby. And the day I delivered it, I gave it up for adoption. And then I went back to school the next week. Like it was like life moved on. We pretended like nothing had happened. And I never thought about it. She's married with a son, all these things. She never thought about it again. She put it away at 16 years old. And what's amazing is that we can do this, right? We can put it away. I had my memory that I uncovered for my healing. I put it away. I had no idea. But it did inform every choice I made in my life, all the way from down, tucked away in my subconscious. So listen to the story. So she got this phone call from her daughter who said, I've been looking for you. And I want you to know that I'm so grateful that you had me, that I have really beautiful parents, and I have 2 children and a husband who loves me so much. And I have such a great life. And I want my mother in my life. And I want you to meet your grandkids. And I want you to like come into the if you're open, like, I really would love to know you because I know you were young, and I know that you did what was best for me, and you did. I have a great life. So she's on the phone with her daughter, and another call comes in from her sister while she's on the phone, and she clicks over to the call, and her sister says, "Mom just had a heart attack, and she's on her way to the hospital." So she immediately knows what's going on. She gets to the hospital. Mom survives the heart attack. And she tells her, "You don't even understand what happened. Like, while you had a heart attack because I met my daughter." And she lost it and said, "We had so much shame and so much guilt for making you give her up. We know we should have raised her. We know that we shouldn't have, like, locked you up and, like, kept you inside and made you feel ashamed, and, like, your father and I for many, many years just we regret it."
Mhm.
Right? But in this moment of her own healing, this energy. So you could see there's no such thing as time and space. And when we talk about quantum entanglement and we talk about why the voice is such an important tool, it's moving through your genetic code. It's moving through what we see as separate. It doesn't exist. Everything is one universal energy connected, and how we send our frequency out into the world has a direct impact on everything. And then it also acutely affects your gene line. So how you heal is how your entire genetic code, how your epigenetics that are moving through your entire family will heal. And so in this moment, she unlocked the matrix. She just like opened up the fabric of existence through her womb space, through her intelligent womb, and her own daughter found her. And her mother, who made that choice for her that was holding there, had her physical shock from having to go back into there. And that was a multi-generational healing that happened from a chanting practice.
I have no word of a lie, full body goosebumps going on right now. Like, are you kidding me?
Exactly.
That is so, like, oh my god, I could talk to you for hours about these kind of experience because my book, I wrote a book, and it's about healing generational trauma and the importance of the healing work in your gene lines, right? And oh my gosh, like, okay, we're gonna have another whole conversation just about this.
If we can, because another piece of science when we talk about this is that the epigene that tells us our generational trauma is only 0.01% of our genetic makeup. And 99.99% of humanity is exactly the same, but then all of that information gets stored in, like, a protein sheath that wraps around the DNA strand, and that's how we show up the way we show up and with our patterns. And when you use your voice, so they say that the epigene is actually, informed by what hormones are moving through the body, and when we send stress hormones through the body, it activates the epigenetics. So cortisol, ephedrine, adrenaline, these hormones are going to, like, instigate the epigene and create the repetitive. But there's aspects of that protein that will go dormant and be unexpressed if we have oxytocin and dopamine and other bliss or happiness hormones in the body. And this is what the voice does. So when we use our voice in these ways, we are decreasing our stress hormones and increasing our bliss hormones. And when we use our voice in these ways, we can actually get aspects of our epigenes. And this is what I've watched, and this is what happened with these two people and with thousands of people. But we actually can see how the way we would normally respond based on what our epigenetics tell us, we now have the ability to tap in to the 99.99% that's actually available to all of us all the time. And we get to awaken those parts of our human genetic so that we don't have to keep retelling that story generation after generation.
Mhm. Yeah, we're gonna have a part 2, just so you know.
Mhm. I love you. So let's do
So,
it.
when your own energy feels off and the world gets noisy, like it is, what's one ritual that helps you come back to yourself, come home to yourself really, not quickly, I guess, but what is a fail safe for you?
Yeah, so what you said about the humming,
Mhm.
the humming would be the first step, but it's the way that we produce the sound. So something that's very easy, something that I work with regularly off of the humming is actually an I am practice, which is not I am Maryn, I'm okay, I'm gonna make it. Like there's nothing in the blank. There's just the claiming of your connection to all that is and honoring that you are here and allowed to be here and confident in that, like that just like I am. But it starts with this humming practice. So I put my hand on my belly so that I can contact, and if anyone wants to try this at home, you put your hand on your belly so that you can feel into your umbilicus. This is the permission that you were given to be on earth, that you don't need any other permission from any other person. There's like nobody to tell you. This part of your body, the womb space that gave you life, grants you access to the world. And no matter where you feel in your life, you're making the wrong move, someone's offending you, you don't have access to that thing you think you need, you feel scarce, alone, deprived, any of the feelings that come up, if you can breathe into that belly and remind yourself that you actually exist, and that means that you have the right to exist and you have the right to the life that you want for yourself. And then you take your other hand and place it on your heart center. When you were first conceived, how we knew that you were a baby was the heartbeat. And they say that the heartbeat holds the contract. So within your own heart is the contract you signed with this earth of why you have come and why she wants you here. And again, no matter what any other human being wants to say, she wants you here. So when we take the breath into the belly and we can feel it rise into the heart and we can connect these two breaths here, we can reclaim our sovereignty, our free will, our place on this earth, and our presence, no matter what the craziness of the world is spiraling. And then from here, we're going to do the hum that you were talking about before, but I want you to feel it at your lips. So I want you to feel the hum at the like feel the sound all the way to the lip. So as we breathe into the belly and we feel the hand on the heart, we can just gently hum.
Wow. I don't wow. Even just that. 1. Like, I'm kinda speechless right now.
So the practice of maybe 2 minutes of that will change the whole way of your whole energy field gets reset. But then if you wanna move beyond that, I am from there. So I take that breath, start at the hum, and then go, my am. So I claim all the drama, all the headspace, all the everything that wants to distract from my central channel of energy. I just get it away and I just claim I am. All this other stuff can go. Earth, spirit, I am. And that resets you. And from there, you can make a clear choice. You can make a clear directive for your life from that place.
I encourage everybody that's listening to honestly give that one practice a try. I'm not even remotely exaggerating. It was the coolest thing I have felt in a long time. Yeah, please go and do that. And if people want to work even more with you, they are going to want to. So here's where you can check out Maryn. And that sorry, there's my throat again. Her website is vocal sorry, I can't even see it. My eyes are Can you speak?
Vocaltransformation.com. And my Insta at vocal_transformation. And also on TikTok, the same, at vocal_transformation.
All right. All of those my throat just went, "Oh, what is happening here today?" Um, all of those links will be in the show notes. So I end every interview asking my guest what they are grateful for today, because even in the hard, there is always something that's beautiful. What are you grateful for today, Maryn?
I'm very grateful for what's happening in the world right now. Because yes, we're in a very hard place, humanity, but we're in an evolutionary place right now. And from a very deep, heart-centered space, we are evolving as a species. So I'm really grateful for like the chaos actually that's going on, because when things get this chaotic, everything inside of our deepest truth says, this is not the way we're supposed to be. And then from that place, we actually get to feel, what do we want it to be? And that's how a human race up levels. So I know there's so much going on in this world that is so difficult and challenging, but I'm so grateful again for my work. I mean, yes, it's my work, but the voice, I'm so grateful for the simplest tool that every human being has to evolve and to empower and to up level their life with what we had from the moment we were born, but also just that we're at a time in history where the reason why this is even coming out, the reason why people even are stepping into using these tools that we have available is because we are at the great awakening.
Mhm.
And I'm just so grateful that it's happening, because it is happening.
Yeah, and we are here. We chose to be here during this. So, what a powerful and soul stirring conversation that this has been. If you are sitting with a lump in your throat or maybe even a soft hum in your chest, you're not alone. And Maryn has reminded us that our voice isn't just sound, it's memory and it's energy and it's healing that is waiting to happen. And if you feel like singing or speaking, screaming or whispering, your voice is so beautiful and it always has been. And if it's been quiet for a while, maybe this is your moment to begin again. If you'd like a gentle place to start, you can grab my free guided meditation. It's like a deep breath for your heart. It's 8 minutes, and the link will be in the show notes. If you want to keep walking this healing path with me, sign up for my weekly Exhale newsletter. It's where I share voice notes from my heart, behind the scenes stories, healing tools that I'm loving. I talk about my podcast guests like Maryn, and I also share little nudges to help you feel seen, supported, and a little less alone on this journey. Maryn, thank you so much for your sound, your spirit, and the reminder that sometimes the most important thing that we can do is just let it out. Let our voice be heard.
Let it out.
Let it out. Thank you so, so much for being here.
Thank you, Tiff. It's been a wonderful conversation.
I'll see you all next week. And until then, breathe deep, speak softly or boldly, and trust your voice because it is so, so beautiful. Bye-bye. Thanks for being here for this episode of Hard, Beautiful Journey. I hope today's episode inspired you to embrace your own vulnerabilities and recognize the strength within you. Remember, every story of resilience adds to the beauty of our shared journey. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and leave a review. Your support helps me spread hope and healing to even more listeners. Until next time, keep shining your light and embracing the beauty in your journey. Bye-bye.